No sound. Give me 1 second. About now. Got sound? All right, Biko. See if I could bring you on real quick. Nobody's joined. All right, I tried to bring you on, Biko. So listen, all I want to do is I want to point out some facts and just educate a little bit here, real quick, on about the case of the young guy McNeil and the officer Bowers, real quick, because this really could have been a very short Facebook Live, but I'm gonna do this. First thing we should always know as the public is we really do have to know policies, procedures, law, constitutional law, anything that governs us, our business, our families. We should have some bit of knowledge. The Jacksonville Sheriff Officer JSO policy on use of force is outlined in their response and resistance policy. Requires an officer to use only force that is reasonable and necessary under the circumstances, based on what the officer reasonably believed at that time. De-escalation techniques should be used when possible. And all uses of force are subject to review for reasonableness and adherence to policy. Physical control techniques, strikes, pain compliance, takedowns, and restraint are authorized only to gain compliance or protect safety and must be reported and reviewed. All right, let's go down further. February 18th incident shown in a viral video. JSO officers broke a car window after the driver allegedly refused to comply with commands to exit the vehicle. The officer then pulled the individual out, hit him in the face while he was being removed, and then after he had his hands up before being taken to the ground, he was hit again twice, going down. The officer report claimed concern that the man was reaching for a knife and resisting, which they cite as justification to escalate force. Now here's what we're gonna get to real quick. I don't have the tech to pull it up here, but I can edit this out and walk it through. But what we'll do now, because we're live, is we're gonna do this. I took a couple of notes. So one, McNeil, the young man who was pulled over, never filed a complaint in February, but once the video went live or went viral, filed a complaint. The sheriff, TK Waters, said he had no knowledge of it until it was brought to his attention. So I had a debate, not a debate, just going back and forth with my wife about whether he should have filed it that day or later on, as today or last week. I do believe he has that right. In my comparison, and it may be wrong, was just like a person who's in an abusive relationship. They may not file that report that day. They may not file it tomorrow or next week. As a matter of fact, we've seen a lot of men or individuals taken down years and decades later. because they filed a report. And sometimes not even a report, it was placed off in the media. And from the media became outside of the civil until the to legal aspect between the two parties. So first thing, we're gonna walk it through. First is Officer Broward said that he was pulled over for not having his lights on and seatbelt. That's the first thing. And if you've seen McNeil's video from his perspective, what did he have on? What did the officer do when they broke the window? He had his seatbelt on. We're gonna strike that out. Okay. 2, the vehicle he was driving was maybe an older vehicle, and they said the lights were supposed to be on while it was raining. And as we saw from body cam footage and the other from inside the vehicle, it was not raining. I do believe it had rained because the vehicle did have water on it. Does it call? And the reason I point out the older vehicle, I don't believe that vehicle lights turn on automatically. I'm not sure, and I'm not making any excuses. What I'm saying is, I've never heard a person being pulled over, and we can find case law, and I'm pretty sure it's on the discretion of the officer to pull someone over in broad daylight, driving through rain without lights, right? I'm not sure, and I'm not sure how heavy that rain is. All that stuff can be argued later. Another thing is, Officer Bowers put in a report that he was reaching for a knife on the passenger side floorboard, which if you watch from McNeil's perspective, he wasn't reaching. There wasn't a reach that I saw. I do believe maybe he went down off camera, but that's just from my perspective. And as far as like he was reaching for something that was gonna, what was he gonna do with the knife? I'm not sure, and no one knows if that's the case. But when you do watch the video, you do see that there isn't a real reach for anything, and they only knew about that after he was pulled out of the car. Now, the reason I say this video about the facts can be a very short video, because McNeil, what did he plead guilty to? One, he pled guilty to driving on suspended license. That's the end of it. We can go home now. If we want to, we can go home. Your ass shouldn't have been driving. You understand? This Jacksonville, man. This is the South. You're a melanated man. You have weed in your pocket, and it's not legal. You can get the medicinal. You understand? You're riding around on suspended license, and you got weed in your pocket in a tinted window vehicle. Now, if you're my son, and I'm gonna tell you what I taught my son, 10, who's 19, just bought his first vehicle. The vehicle has tinted windows. This is what he's to do. If you get pulled over, day or night, you let all those windows down. You put both your hands on that steering wheel. You keep them there. You don't give them attitude. We ain't got time for that. They ain't touch you, and they don't disrespect you. And if the phone is in the vehicle or the camera is on, you make sure that it's on. Right? It ain't just about so you can make it home. We just gonna do what need to be done, get the ticket. And if it's unlawful, if it's something you want to debate, we'll debate it. You got me on your team. That's what I taught my son, and I'm teaching all my other sons. My other son and my other people's children's as well. So the young man was giving commands. Let's do this. Let's go. I can play it back right here on the computer, and we could walk it through from the body cam perspective, the whole nine. You got the young man was pulled over. They told him he was pulled over. He had the door open. Number one, the officer asked him why he had the door open. He said he wanted to know why you pulled him over, why you pulled me over. He said, not having lights on in the rain, not wearing a seatbelt. The young man asked for the supervisor. No, the cop asked for his driver's license. Then he asked for a supervisor, right? So here's what you have to know. And I do believe the internet, and I do like what Tyler Perry said when I seen it on when he was at the table with Kirk Franklin, Young G's, and the younger brother who owns some steakhouses, Philly steakhouses. The nigga net will get you in trouble and destroy your ass. You understand me? That, give me your supervisor, talking crazy, they got guns. They got a whole army behind them. They could be on your ass quicker than anything, as you saw, while you by yourself, out anywhere on the side of the road. Get the people the license. So here's the law, what you must know about when you do ask for a supervisor, okay? It is up to the discretion of that officer to wait on a supervisor, right? Or to move forward while the supervisor is on the way. It is on their discretion. It is in their discretion, excuse me. So asking for a supervisor like Karen at Kmart and expecting, you know, like it's going to happen, does not always work in those people's favor who's asking for it. Slamming the door in the officer face when he approach you, we have seen enough times how this plays out and how it could have played out on the extreme side. When they did give him commands. Once he closed the door, the officer didn't tell him he was under arrest. He then asked again, why did you pull me over? The officer didn't say, I did tell you, which was lights, seatbelts. And then the guy, you can hear him in the background saying, I'm going to break the window out. And whoever the other officer was told him to go ahead and break the window out. So when a civilian expresses concern during a stop and asks a supervisor, JSO policies do not specifically require officers to wait for a supervisor before proceeding with enforcement actions. Supervisors typically tail the complaint investigations, use of force reviews, and disciplinary issues after the fact, rather than immediate mediators during stops. JSO complaint procedures indicate that minor complaints are initially handled by the accused officer's supervisor, and serious complaints go to the internal affairs of investigation, as this particular thing has. However, this supervisory involvement is part of a post-incident review process, not necessarily an on-the-spot mediator role in practice. Officers generally continue their lawful duties even if a civilian requests a supervisor. Supervisor's involvement usually happens after the stop. If a complaint is filed to investigate and address concerns, the department has a structured grievance process involving supervisors, division chiefs, and ultimately the sheriff's office. But this applies to formal complaints, not immediate intervention. Therefore, if a civilian requests a supervisor during a stop, but no supervisor arrived, it is likely within current JSO procedures that the officers are not obligated to delay action waiting for the supervisor presence. The request gains importance through the formal complaint and review system that follows. This can understandably be frustrating for civilians seeking immediate mediation, but the system primarily relies on after-the-fact review and accountability through complaint filings and disciplinary procedures rather than a real-time mediation during enforcement actions. And if you think that it should be immediate based on you asking, then you need to do something about it. See, talking on the internet, being emotional, that shit don't get nothing done. You want something done, you go write your policy, your procedure, you need to take the steps to get it done. If you need to escalate a situation to get attention, then you need to do that. But us talking about it is the first step. Talking back and forth with those particular agencies is another step. Talking back and forth with your political or elected officials is another step. And all of these steps can happen at the same time if you think it should be so. But remember, if it's not so, does not necessarily mean that it cannot happen. And it does not necessarily mean that it will happen with all your work, with all your opinions, with all your emotion. So these are the things you have to take in mind when you're going in a battle to try to get change for something. So do you have to sign a ticket or will you go to jail? In Florida, when the officer issues the traffic ticket, you're usually required to sign a ticket as a promise to appear in court or address the citation, not as an admission of guilt. Not as an admission of guilt. If you refuse to sign, the officer may interpret this as a refusing to comply to a lawful order, which can escalate the situation and potentially result in your arrest for not compliance or failure to sign, even though refusing to sign itself is not a criminal offense. There lies another issue. If you feel that I should not go to jail as a refusal to sign a ticket, there's another battle for you. But if it's telling you in the law, it is not a admission of guilt, but just, a promise to appear, then, you can take things forward from there. So here's where the rubber meets the road. The initial stop for a light and a seatbelt. But then what do you do when the person is pled guilty to suspended driver's license and I believe possession or something like that? Oh, I'm sorry, suspended license and resisting the police without some shit, physical stuff. I'm not sure, right? So there's an attorney that may have gotten involved. I don't know if it's being crumpled or not. I'm not sure. There's an attorney involved. There is an attorney involved because this is going to. Anyway, there's an attorney involved. The attorney may look at the punch in the face, which is what TK Waters, the sheriff, is looking at. The punch in the face. Shit, I'm not just looking at the punch in the face. I'm looking at the other two uppercuts when he got out. So when I saw that, you're like, okay, man, that's crazy. You punched the man again, but let's look at it and listen. Once they pulled him out of the vehicle and they told him to get on the ground, what did McNeil say? No, no. And so when we go back into their policies and procedures, if you look like you're resisting or act like you're resisting, they have the right to use force. This is what you're up against. So you got a two-piece to the chin, stitches to the lip, tooth coming through the lip. You understand? I'll say this. I'm always on the side of justice. And I've been involved in police brutality cases around the country, locally, around the country. And I was just recently asked to be involved in another one up north. But I'm not in a situation where I can go without help from the ground from here. We have to investigate basically in a 360-degree angle, meaning you have to look at everybody's perspective. You have to know the law. You have to know Browers, the officer Browers. You want to know his background. And guess what? He has a history of violent arrests. He's gone before internal affairs. Then you even have to look at McNeil's background. You understand? Again, this would be a very short Facebook Live if I go, if your license is suspended, you shouldn't be driving, which means your window wouldn't get punched out. You wouldn't get punched in the face. You wouldn't get a two-piece going to the ground. No stitches, no lip, no lawyer involved. No, you understand? If your license is suspended, don't have your ass out here driving. I can't tell you to go drive because you got to go to work. You got to do what you have to do, but then you have to be able to, you have to be willing to face the consequences that come with it if you get caught. And that's just that. This is America. You've been at war with America from day one. Shit don't change because it's a new president or somebody else is new. You understand? Because the things that we're up against is systemic. And you can have individuals who seek to change those, and then you have 5 individuals who seek to keep them because it conserves their lineage, their lifestyle. You understand? So that's it, man. I ain't really got nothing else to talk about. I just want to present the facts based on the law. Y'all got any questions? Anybody want to say anything? If not, I'm out. All right, Bobby Worthy, what's happening? License is displayed in lieu of bail. If your license is suspended, you will be arrested. Hey, I don't have anything against Ben Crump. Ben Scott said, I hope it's not Crump. Why you don't want to be Ben Crump, Ben Scott? Remember, I think people need to understand too. Attorneys come in when it's to look to take a civil matter. What's going on with Charles Story? People like myself, we try to advocate as much as for those who we feel is unjust, if asked to. If I'm asked, and if I find that this is something that needs my attention and other people like me, then we bring that attention. But I definitely wanted to talk about the facts because our people, not just my people, but the human people need to understand what the law is, what's the policy and the procedure. And we're like, you know, a lot of people always say, well, you should just comply, or you know, because it sounds weird. Just do what you need to do, right? The officer says, oh, this isn't the place on the side of the road to go against, to try to fight a battle about why you pulled me over or not. And people do have bad days. People go through shit. And sometimes it just be the wrong time for somebody else to intersect in their life, because sometimes you catch that. Officers gonna have that bad. Civilians, the people gonna have bad days. We don't always have great days, but we try to live in peace and not be beat up, shot, brutalized, you know, while trying to get to work, go home. What were we doing? So, Nia Bia, my sister, what's going on? Those are red herrings, logically fallacies used in argument. Timing isn't an issue. Stop was illegal. It was no longer raining. The cops didn't even have the lights on. Hold up, wait, what was that? What was that? They could have done, used the knowledge and understanding of the law and hire and uphold and educate the young man. That's true. It's all at their discretion. We talked about earlier. But did you know he was driving on suspended license? What do we do with that? Again, if you're driving on suspended license, does this ever happen? Do we talk about this, or do we have discussions about other things? And then we have to push our mindset and our mentality into the proactive approach of things in our communities, in our city, the proactive approach, because, you know, it's easy to get out here and then we can gaslight this bitch. We can go ham quickly. But then you go ham quickly over something that they wouldn't go ham or gaslight over. You understand? Which is why you have an attorney. The attorney doesn't want you, in certain instances, to bring in someone like me or people like us. We do other things. The attorneys quietly file documents, you know, gonna look at your insurance and see if we can put some liens on someone and all these other things what attorneys do. and they may do, do their press conference and talk about it in the news and keep it alive. But what our job will be in certain instances, except into the legality aspect, we will point you into the direction of someone that can help if you and we all feel that you needed that help in certain instances. And yes, he should always be educated. We should always be educating our own people in certain instances like this. India Songbird says, if he'd never been stopped, he could have received a civil citation for unknowingly driving on a suspended license. If he's never been stopped, he could have received a civil citation. So saying that means what happens? What party? Let's look at the left party. Let's look at McNeil and let's look at Bowers. Right? Because remember, JSO are servants of the public. They all work for the public, which is us, but we can get into some other legalities, what's really defined as public. So is it at the officer's discretion? Because how many people have ever been on a driver's license that was suspended and the officer gave you a warning, get on home, right? Sheila Jackson, she says, I was driving on suspended license at one time, but didn't know it. Suspended license does not warrant an ass beating. I missed the TK interview, but if they were right, then why lie in the report? Or the points we brought up as well. India says, never been stopped by driver while license suspended. But y'all, these acronyms, how you come up with that so quick? Because I was about to say, wow, what? The stop didn't have to be treated as a criminal stop. What escalated the stop to be a criminal stop? Who was involved? Who escalated, and who tried to de-escalate in that situation? Let's do this. The ladies that's make a comment, Sheila, Neil, India. If this was, let's put this in the place of that boy. I ain't gonna call him a boy. If McNeil was your son, and you saw when he got pulled over, he opened the door. What you pull me over for? And the officer said, lights, seatbelt. And then he said, there's no law that says they gotta da-da-da-da-da. Right? And he says, let me get your driver's license, insurance and all that other stuff. And then your son slams the door. I'm gonna stop right there. What happens? The way that individuals approached each other, what happens? Is this how you would tell your son to handle being stopped by the police? Sheila says, I was driving on suspended license at one time, but didn't know it. Suspended license is not okay. We saw that. Read that. I got 20 comments down in my bad. No. Okay, read that one. Tammy Horo, what's up? I thought his window didn't roll down. He said his window did not roll down. He had the door open. Now, when the officer asked him for his driver's license, Tammy, he did what? He closed the door when asking for the supervisor. Shannon Cheeseboro says, then he did not comply. If we're looking at this, and it's hard to look at it from a excuse me, emotional perspective, but we have to look at it from some form of neutral understanding before we come to a conclusion. Close the door and locked it. Closed the door and locked it. Not only that, he was still in his seatbelt, which is another point. He was wearing a seatbelt. Do we need to watch it all again? class? Objectively, that's the correct term. I'm gonna pull this up and I'm gonna turn my laptop around. And I want y'all to watch this with me again.
Yeah, Florida 2-4 Bravo, Echo Charlie Whiskey, Silver Kia.
We all need to.
Is there a reason why you're popping the door open like that? I have a window that works. Yeah, absolutely, there's a reason why I'm pulling you over. For one thing, inclement weather, you don't have the lights on. Two things, you're not wearing your seatbelt.
I don't need the lights. It's not raining. It's not raining.
Oh, it's just inclement.
It's not raining.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
No, call your supervisor. Excuse me? Call your supervisor.
Why did you pull me over?
All right, let's stop right there. When he asked for when he asked for his driver's license, he said what? That's the first one. And I'm not on nobody's side. I want to point the facts out. Because if this is my son, we're going to have a long talk when you get home. You understand?
Absolutely, there's a reason why I'm pulling you over. For one thing, inclement weather, you don't have the lights on. Two things, you're not wearing your seatbelt.
It's daylight. I don't need the lights. And it's not raining. It's not raining.
It's not raining. Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
No, call your supervisor. Excuse me? Call your supervisor. Why did you pull me over?
I've already told you.
Why did you pull me over?
Step out of it.
Stop out of it.
Ask him to step out the car, close his door.
25 seconds, and I'll put the knife on. I just slammed the door and locked it.
And locked it. He's inside asking for the supervisor. Officer calling for backup.
Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. My camera's on too. I've already told you.
He asked why he pulled him over. Cop said, I told you.
Okay. Right now you're under arrest for resisting.
First time telling him he's under arrest for resisting.
You understand? You're under arrest for resisting. The longer you take us on, the worse it's going to be.
Twice he told him he's under arrest for resisting.
Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. Okay. Sir, this is your last warning to open the vehicle and exit before we're going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window.
How many times?
You're under arrest. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting.
He asked for supervisor again. At this point, we heard several commands. They haven't done anything yet. He's asked for supervisor a couple times inside the car. You hear backup coming. Remember what the JSO policy and procedure is about getting a supervisor on location. It's up to the discretion of that officer to either wait on him or to proceed.
window. Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle. Show me your hands.
But we didn't see the punch because it's not on their body cam. You can see him unbuckling the seatbelt, which they said he was pulled over for. He had on.
Put your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. What's wrong with you?
Now, y'all didn't hit, but man, I don't even want to make it look bad, but I want to show his perspective. If I can find his camera. I'm going to pull up. Give me a minute. Talk amongst yourselves. Give me a minute. Let me find his. When you're looking for, you can't find it. Now, I'm not saying you don't have the right. It's not illegal to have an attitude. You can have as much attitude as you want. But I always keep in mind, if you've ever dealt in the street and that man in front of you got a pistol, fuck how much of the law he's with it for, and you know deep down your ass is wrong. Just do what they say, man. Just do what they say, because it possibly could have went in a positive direction, right? So let's look at what's the worst case scenario. Not the worst case scenario. You comply, you give them your license, they run it, man, your license is suspended. Now, I gotta search you. I find some weed in your pocket. That's a ticket. Suspended license, ticket. And that vehicle is towed, boy. Unless they say, you know what, it's raining. You know, I got to write this report. It's going to be a minute. Call somebody and have them come get it. They got about 35 minutes while I sit here and write this ticket up. Based on attitude, based on the day that they're feeling or having. Tammy, you put that was the, I don't know if I can find that. Tammy, do me a favor. Put that link in my Facebook Messenger real quick. That's the real quick, Tammy, in my Facebook Messenger. So we've seen the body cam footage from the officer's perspective. We've heard from JSO. You heard from, you know how quick this is? And I don't think people realize how fast this happened. Body cam footage now, press conferences to show transparency to the public. And of course, we're all going to think how we feel about whatever we feel about JSO. Everybody has their own individual feeling when they give a press conference. But remember, there was a point in time where there was no body cam footage he released. Not only was there no body cam footage, the sheriff office wasn't giving you no press conference about something that was on the internet. You understand? It's amazing what change could do when you won't change. Okay. All right. Let me. Sierra. She said, Sheila Jackson, Moses, stop. Oh, yeah, I'm talking about yourself. Let me pull this. Let me see if I can pull this thing up. Come on. My internet is super slow out here. I don't know why my and I tell you, this isn't about trying to get you to change your mind. This is about knowing the facts, because this isn't the first, it will not be the last time that you may encounter or see something like this in your city and around the country. First thing you got to know is the law. What led up to what it was, to the situation that happened, right? We're not, we're not going back and forth about what is and what ain't. I mean, we do that as, private amongst ourselves. But again, I just wanted to go. My internet is, I don't know what's going on. Give me 1 second so I can pull this thing up. So I want to show the perspective from McNeil's perspective inside of the car. Well, Shannon, we not only were we giving classes, we were handing out pamphlets on the streets, know your right pamphlets, to to avoid all of this. You know what I mean? It's just like having certain rallies, and then let's say you're having rallies for people selling pink horses illegally. You think those people who selling pink horses going to show up at that rally? You know what I'm saying? So, I to me, my aim is always deal with those people that are a little younger, who can have a better opportunity of mind to be shaped in the understanding. Okay, let me go down. Okay, Tam, let me see right here what's going on. What's the saying about it's easier to deal with children than broken men? Because it's hard for us to change our minds, because we locked in the way that we are. Jeez. And I'll be honest with you, man. Man, why can't I pull this freaking video up?
Authority. Effective immediately. All video footage presented in this briefing is available on all JSO social media platforms.
So JSO didn't show
the video. I wouldn't work here.
So what are y'all thoughts about what TK said about while I look for this video? TK said, I wouldn't work here, he wouldn't work here. A lot of African American people, men and women, wouldn't work here if they thought they were out here hunting up black people. What y'all thought about that? This is the second sheriff in the history of Jacksonville you had in Jacksonville, Florida. What y'all thought about that? While I look for this video. Ishmael Muhammad, what's going on, my brother? Open-mindedness is a very principle that eludes us most of our lives. Come on now. Frederick Douglass did say that about that broken man. Easy to work with children. Okay. All right. Michael Johnson says, bootlicking at his finest. It says, waiting on this video. I don't know why they're coming through. So let me ask you, Michael, why do you say it's bootlicking at its finest? Gerald Levert, I'm sorry. Eddie Stewart, what's up, my brother, says, well, he shouldn't work there because that's exactly what's happening. And you say hunting down black men is what's exactly happening at JSO office. Patrick X Davis says, you got to get parents to understand that before their churn, holler at Shannon, not hamburger. What? I mean, what? That's too much ebonics, Patrick. You gotta spread the whole word. I can't read that. Biko, is this the the car thing? So if we think, so let's look at it like this, because I've been in a meeting and they said that let's do this. Let's do this. I'm gonna lay out some facts for you real quick. I got it, Biko. Thank you. I got it. For some reason it wouldn't open in the other one, Tammy. I got it. I appreciate you. Let's do this. I want to point out some facts for you real quick about crimes that's being committed in Jacksonville, arrests, and by who. And we will again see how disproportionate it is since the ending of slavery. Okay. Preacher Dawson, I will admit it, made me mad, seeing the officer hit the young man more than once. The young man was wrong for closing that door. Patrick, on what a nigga Christ was bringing in around in 2008. Eddie, it's heartbreaking to see a black people in position of authority and feel like they have to compromise their integrity. And who is that a reference to, Eddie? Who you feel is compromising their integrity? All right, so let's deal with these stats real quick. The homicide murder in Jacksonville between 2000 2005, African Americans made up 29% of Jacksonville population. 29%. 29%. They made up the population, but were 59% of known murder suspects, and 56% of murder suspects were black males. White males were 32% of suspects. I'm gonna say it again. This is Jacksonville, Florida, between 2000 and 2005. African Americans made up 29% of the population, Jacksonville population, but were 59% of known murder suspects, and 56% of suspects were black males. In raw numbers, out of 326 identified murder suspects in that period, out of 326 identified murder suspects in that period, y'all get me right? 325 identified murder suspects in that period, 182 were black males. I'm gonna do that math. 182. 182 divided into 326. 182 divided into 326. That's the murder. Other key crime demographics in Jacksonville: pedestrians. Black residents receive 55% of all pedestrian tickets in Jacksonville, Florida, despite being 29% of the population. This is what I then termed walking while black. You hadn't heard that before. Walking while black. you want to give a man a jaywalking ticket with some other stuff going on, you know, but this is about 20, this is 2000 and 2000. So back to my brother Eddie, when the majority of the murders that seem to be happening or broadcast are by, and then when we see them every night on the news, on social media, fentanyl, crack cocaine, murder, kidnap, missing, it looked like it's being hunted. But are they being hunted? Are they the bad guys? Or do we go back to something else? So it can easily, like black men have been hunted when black men are doing the crimes. I'm not condoning nor condemning. We're going to deal with the facts. And I don't have an opinion. I can tell you this, TK Waters dropped the crime rate 50%. We ain't never seen it. You understand? So y'all want to look at some more? You want to look at some more data? Data gaps. Jacksonville, specifically offense by offense, arrest percentages by race, especially for 2020s, are not publicly released by the local police or government database in full detail. So we don't have that yet, which is why there's another reason why, another thing that has to or should be done, which is data keeping by race. We may not want to think, not us, those who are the majority of the population, and I don't, 29% of Jacksonville, that's crazy. I really thought we about 40, 45%. That's great. But that's just the men. That's not the women. I'm sorry. That's the men, not the women. So we add them on, then yeah, the numbers go up. Pardon me. Pardon my left. So data keeping by race, nationality, gender is important, because when you document, then you know where there may be some key issues to go and deal with from a systemic position and a proactive approach. As us, we understand the proactive approach, though we may at times react. But I can tell you, when you react, your reactions must be strategic. They must not be emotional reactions, because then you become predictable, right? When you become predictable, people know how you're going to move, and they can put that out real quick. So when we know that, let's see what the general population. I mean, if you ever read the book Jim Crow, then you'll know that after the ending of so-called the physical slavery began the prison industrial complex. Excuse me. So before the ending of slavery, the majority of people that was in prison were Europeans, white people, white men. After, they had no use for paid labor, because now you have to pay these men and women, these melanated people. Then they pushed them into the prison system under the 85 to 100-year system of Jim Crow, which were based on the laws of slavery. Okay. Yes, Michelle Alexander. And there's several more films out there on this subject matter. So they're saying that approximately 289,371 people make up 30.09% total population as of 2025. 30%. Now, here's another thing that we do. When them people say they want to come around the census and count you for certain things to come into your area and your population, man, I ain't finna. They just you post everything. Your cell phone is a monitoring tracking system. You got cameras everywhere that can tell you everything. You see what I'm saying? So the census is since probably numbers probably would go up, and I think some things would necessarily change, but we shouldn't be sitting around waiting on government officials to change things that we can definitely change ourselves. Word. That's right, Tammy. We can stand on the corner and they say break it up. They can say if you got a job, you don't have a job. Oh, I forgot them. I got off point. Goddamn, let me go back. All right. All right, I got the data. Now, here's what I want to show. I want to go and show McNeil's perspective. All right, we're going to go and show McNeil's perspective from inside his car, from his camera. You've seen JSO's body camera footage, but now let's look at McNeil's.
Under this weather, I'm like, okay. There's multiple people headlights on, first of all, and then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law
Yeah,
up?
when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor?
Huh?
Can you call your supervisor?
Right,
His seatbelt is on.
Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle.
Punch. Not resisting. He never reached. I'm gonna play this back. I want to play this back from the beginning.
So what I did wrong? Yeah. He said,
Because if that officer lied in that police report, you out of there. Boy, TK gonna get your ass. You out of there. And it ain't gonna be with pay. I'm gonna play it back.
well, for one, your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like, okay. There's multiple people headlights on, first of all, and then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor?
Huh?
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Still within frame. Never bent down. Seatbelt on. Window crack. Punch. No resistance. Still ain't reach. Hands up. About to cross him. Sit back. They're gonna open the door and take his seatbelt off.
What is your reason, sir? What is your reason? All right.
They go two-piece. They asked him to get on the ground. First thing he said was no. When they pulled him, he still resisted, which in their policy and procedure.
So what I did wrong? He said,
Now y'all understand? We've seen it from both perspectives. Now that police report that officer said that he was reaching for a knife on the driver's side floor, lies. Boy, you in trouble. He out of there. You punch that boy in the face, that man in the face, you out of there. Yeah. There was nothing lawful about that. And then if you did say he didn't have a seatbelt on, that's another one. I counted 3. I don't know how many y'all counted. Okay. Now if we go back, now you got to play both sides. You got to look at not play, but you got to look at both sides again. If you knew or you didn't know, it's your responsibility to know. I just said that, Michael. Officer lied on report, clear as day. State attorney got to reopen investigation and needs to get the charge. Absolutely, I agree with that. But let's do this, Michael. Whose responsibility is it to pay your bills? If you brought up the bill, you created the bill. The light bill is in your name, and that light bill get turned off. Who's responsible for paying that bill? Excuse me. You are. So, somewhere along the line, McNeil got a ticket. McNeil did not pay that ticket. His license got suspended. Who's responsible for that? and then you drive on a suspended ticket. Yeah, Eddie, I said the seatbelt was on. It was right here. Because when he opened the door to why you pulled me over, the seatbelt was here. Seatbelt was on the whole time. You can freeze frame it the whole piece. And I'm pretty sure it was up higher when he initially said they stopped him. I'll be honest with you. I think the stop was bogus. That's just my personal opinion. But I ain't nobody. I'm just somebody over here talking on Facebook Live. You heard? That's all I'm doing. Okay? Lights on in the rain. We can, we could go all day. Come on, man. You stopping me? Now I'm be honest with you. If I know my license good, well, I'm talking me. I'm talking shit. What you stop me for, man? Get your supervisor out here. That's me. Get your supervisor out here. But you can take the paperwork. You can take the paperwork all day.
Your headlights are off.
I'm not gonna resist. I'm not trying to go to battle. We do another battle, and we're gonna win. You understand? Because there's a history. Now, Eric, one of the reporters at News for Jacks, asked about a black thing. TK got, hey man, it's saying about no black shit, because if it was, I wouldn't, he wouldn't, women here wouldn't. But because there's a history of racism, of black men being pulled over, gunned down, brutalized in the car, you gotta ask. Because you rarely see, now we just did see 3 or 4 so-called black men brutalize and murder another so-called black man. Rare to see. Outside of that, it's European versus everybody else. You understand? Tasha says TK brought the crime rate down, but he still does a great job of trying to justify white's wrong. Does he? Hold up. Let me go back. I'm going to get everybody. Eddie said, he said seatbelt was on, it wasn't. Okay, now let me go back up. Right. Tammy, no, it's your responsibility. Street cop training. Here's the thing. Everything that the public wants to do now is a reaction to shit that should have been going on and never stopped. The black was created for such a thing, Ku Klux Klan and everything else, right? A whole bunch of other African groups occupied, and in the same instance, to counter this stuff, educated and empowered. See, my thought process is we can always react, but when you're reacting, you can't build. You understand? If I'm always on defense, I can't score the ball. I'm looking for a team to score when they're not supposed. That's not their job. Their job is to stop the other thing. So the mindset is, to me, you build. And when you're building, you are also eliminating the need for the particular defense. Build a different tactic. You build relationships. Pardon me. Michael Sampson says, I feel you. I don't think the officer pulled him over for suspended license, even though if he had one, I would pretext stop to find out, pretext to find what they find. Officer probable cause was the windshield wipers and the seatbelt. He said windshield wipers. That's crazy. I just heard, what I heard twice was the seatbelt, and they said some type of weather. He used a term before weather. I guess it's some bad weather, term for bad weather. You should have your lights on. But if this is the thing. This is the thing that people, it's supposed to be about safety. And this is the thing that make people think that, our cities are turning into police states. Or we have so much Pardon me, it look like somebody about to jump off the bridge. Hold on. One sec. Okay. So, all right. So, yeah. A lot of things to consider. And I'll be honest with you, it's always work. It's always work that has to be done. You don't have to see me in the streets because I work in different spaces where I find more value and more direct and more of a direct impact to be able to have things change. I create relationships, and my relationships are not about how I shift or think. My relationships based on because who I've always been and what I've always stood for is why I can have a great relationship with people. Most people can't because they're coming with emotionalism. They're coming with opinionism, right? Instead of logic, facts, and your emotions and other things. So, Comedic Empire never went nowhere. Black Commission never went anywhere. Diallo Sekou hasn't gone anywhere. We continue to build, educate, and enlighten. And I do it like this because I've held probably more meetings than anybody in this city of Jacksonville or any public official at this point to try to resolve issues and to build for a particular Black agenda for economic and political power. Because when you are so-called 20 or 30% of the population, you're the smaller population, and you need to be protected. You should not necessarily be what's the term? Amalgamated. Help me out, Tammy. Give me a big word. You must be able to keep your identity, your culture, and you have the right for self-determination. You shouldn't be lost in the mix. Lost in the mix with a dominant culture. You know, not a clam chowder soup, but a salad where you keep your identity, a tossed salad, tossed salad where you still have your tomatoes, your cucumbers, your arugula, your onions. We know what it is. We're in that one bowl living together, right? But when it's a clam chowder, you don't know what's what. You don't know what's all in there. Few things may stand out. So when people call themselves the Black Commission and other people, oh, why is it Black Commission? And other people say, oh, we're gonna have a Black vegan. Oh, why I gotta be a Black? Because everything else has already been a dominant society. You don't have to label shit when it's yours. You understand? Right? So this is people identifying themselves because you don't argue when Italian holidays, St. Patrick days, you don't argue with those people. See what I'm saying? But when we always give resistance. But we're always looking for people that want to be true allies and help liberate those people that have always been oppressed in certain systems. That's always. I mean, there's always been a struggle for liberation, for political and economic power. We must continue to educate. We must continue to love each other. You understand? Continue to spread love, information, build with each other. You understand? We can always talk about unity, but I'll be honest with you, at 53, unity is an illusion for most of us because you're programmed. Most of us are programmed not to be unified because of a frequency that we are attracted to based on your music, your food, your house, your relationships, and your genetic code. You've been programmed. You have not unlearned or deprogrammed yourself to program yourself to work with other people, to find a common ground. Yeah, I want to do something with X, Y, and Z. The first thing they say is, man, but, versus, okay, well, let's find a common denominator and see what we can do. Or, hey, I want to work with so-and-so, X, Y, and Z. Man, to themselves, I just take what they do and copy it, water it down. And then when it's done, I do the program all over and over again, versus not really knowing, not having the same intent as the person who's trying to operate out of love and build empowerment. You'll rather just do it because you think you just make a buck, or you can get internet, nigga net famous. Your neighborhood full of crime. Once you bop everything in the neighborhood, crime goes away. Unless you're going to go in there and lay everybody down. Unless you're going to spend 15, 20 years trying to convert people into some thought process that they can't be converted in because they haven't reached the point of wanting to be something other than what they are. Because they tell you that's all that they know. And that's an old lame ass excuse when it comes to us. That's right. Internet versus impact all day long. So we've seen body cam footage. And I can tell you this, again, before 2014, 14 years ago, you wasn't getting body. Matter of fact, they didn't have body cam footage. They didn't have body cams. But there was a group that fought for body cam footage, right? There's a group that fought for funding. There's a group that continue to educate on politics. There's a group that continue to educate on health, policy specifically to help black people, because black people are the most politicized people on the planet Earth. You got 7 continents. And on most of those 7 continents, where they were the Aboriginal and indigenous people, they're now the oppressed and the smaller group because of colonization. You heard? So why not have policies and procedure to enforce what you need to get to the point you need to be at? That's why politics is local and very important. You can do business, but even your business adheres to politics. You can do religion, but even your religion adheres to politics. You can do love, even your love adheres to politics. So why not be engaged on a political level? Why not begin to understand how it operates? Why not begin to educate your children who will walk in this world blind, deaf, and dumb on politics because you said, I ain't fucking with politics. So now we keep a culture going that keeps you at the position of victimhood mentality. You may be a victim in certain circumstances, but then that don't mean that you have to operate like a victim of certain circumstances. Once you say you want to rise up out of it, you begin to rise up out of it. But then you recognize that situation, if it doesn't change, when I'm gone, somebody else is going to fall into that same situation. Most of the time because the unit don't exist because people don't give a fuck about nobody else but themselves. Especially if they look like you. That's it. Anyway. Hey, don't give me no work, Biko. If I do it, it just be internet because ain't nobody gonna show up. So I'd rather just, we do have a podcast coming. Gene.com, Diallo Sekou I, the circuit. It ain't gonna be no food tasting. Y'all can keep all of that particular frequency. We own by this education, empowerment, get information out, some other stuff. You know, we're gonna have some fun with it as well. But we most definitely can put a lot of information out on policies, procedures, politics. I watched this video about 20 minutes ago, and here you are talking about the same thing. Hey, it's how it works, brother. You got to remember how people learning styles. We all have different learning styles. Repetitive, visual, hearing. And remember, symbols shape our reality. Symbols shape our reality. Symbols shape our reality. So a lot of times you're going to repeat it. I'm 53. This ain't the first time I've ever done this. We're going to keep going. till I say I can't do it no more. Can't stop, won't stop. Anyway, that's it, man. I'm out of here, man. I hope we can have some type of resolve or just a little bit better understanding of this particular situation. And I hope that you decide that something can change. And I hope that you decide that you will be that change and not looking for somebody else to do the change for you. You heard? Oh, also, what's up? What's up, Harry Peace? I'm feeling a little better. I'm still in recovery. I just had a third of my right lung removed. There was a sarcoma cancer found in my lung. And this is why I tell, especially black men, you got a toothache, well, you better go get it looked at. I had a friend went in with a toothache. He wound up dying in the hospital because of an infection. So I went in for something else and they found this. So I got home last week, you know, working out. I haven't worked out yet. I can't work out. I can do a little walking, do my breathing exercises, but I'm good. I ain't going nowhere. It had nothing to do with my diet. It had nothing to do with my moringa powder. It had nothing to do with drinking or smoking. Any of that. It has something to do with what they call genetic disposition. So this is why it's important for my sons to understand, to see and know everything health-wise about me, documented in a book. You should have a family book with your trust, your will, your health, your genetics, all of that should be in a book. You know, we could do oral tradition, but hell, they got paper right now. They got the internet. I don't do it in the cloud because I don't own the cloud or the nigga net. I got that paper I own in my house in a folder in my library. So put that in there. Don't forget to drink your water, man. Water's important. I got my little, you know, always drink your water. So that's it for me, man. Peace.